Hey everybody, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and I was super excited to find this book. I actually got this book for free when I was at a place called the Book Rescuers in Florida, and it was a buy one get one free book sale, and I had an odd number of books. And so the checkout person said, hey, you have an odd number of books. You should go pick out one more book because they're buy one get one free. So what book did I finally land on? I decided to get Bruce Coville's The Monster's Ring. I think this is the first book in the Magic Shop book series. And so this book came out in the 80s, and I will say I don't believe I ever read this book when I was young. I read quite a few of Bruce Coville's other books when I was younger because I would get these from the school library. I really loved them. I thought they were a lot of fun. The one I do remember is Jeremy Thatcher Dragon Hatcher. That book I remember quite well because I thought it was so awesome that this kid had a dragon egg that hatched an actual dragon and he had to decide what to do with it. So this book is about a kid named Russell, and Russell has found himself on the bad end of some bullies. The bullies are chasing him, and he goes into an alleyway where he manages to get away from the bullies, but then he finds a mysterious shop, a magic shop. That doesn't seem to be just magic tricks. In fact, inside this shop, the owner sells him the Monster's Ring. And it comes with some very specific instructions. Turn it once, turn it twice, or turn it thrice. If you turn it once, you'll get horns and hair. Turn it twice, you'll get fangs. Turn it thrice, no one has ever dared. And, oh yeah, don't ever turn it on a full moon because there's no telling what will happen if you do. So Russell gets this ring, and it is a whole adventure from that point. This book is a pretty short one. Like I said, it came out in the 80s. This book is not even 100 pages long. There's even some illustrations throughout the book. Like there's some different spots where there's some pretty well done illustrations, I thought, in the book. I read this in one sitting. I started reading it last night, and then I couldn't stop reading. I kept going straight through the whole book. Not just because it was a short book, but because this book was so intriguing. And I think this is the magic of Bruce Coville, no pun intended. Bruce Coville, I think he is really good at tapping into an emotional journey that a person goes on in their life at some point. And so in this book, Russell has been dealing with bullies. He's a quiet kid who's very shy and would never dream of standing up against the school bully named Eddie. But then he finds this monster's ring. And when he puts it on the first time and tries it out, he turns into a monster and starts to deal with the ramifications of being a monster. He's angry. He's full of rage. He wants to get revenge on Eddie for all the things that have been happening. And so this book really explores this whole idea of monsters. What is a monster? What makes a person a monster? And can a person who is not a monster become a monster? And I think that Bruce Coville really paints this story very well. Russell goes on a journey where he is being influenced by this ring. He is tapping into some really deep-seated feelings he has about the way he's been treated by these bullies at school. And when he finds out that the ring can give him kind of a confidence he's never had before, he's wondering if he's able to just continue with it and have it be a part of his life. But then things start to get out of control, as things always do in a Bruce Coville book. Things always get to a point where things are a little out of control, and the magical thing that the kid has found or discovered gets the best of them. And then it comes to the point where Russell has turned this ring and he can't get it off. He cannot take it off, and he is becoming a monster. I will say this book is not necessarily a creepy book. There's nothing in it that I thought like, oh, that was really scary or anything like that. It was more of an adventure story where this kid is really grappling with this emotional issue. And I think that, there's a lot of kids that go through being bullied. It's a thing that happens in a lot of schools. And so exploring this idea of what happens if you're bullied and you become able to bully the bullies. And this is the journey that Russell is on, and he has to ask himself if this feels okay. And there is a great tension set up between him feeling like he wants to take revenge on these bullies, but then feeling like he shouldn't because it's not right. And so this tension is built throughout the book. And I felt like there was never any moments in the plot where Russell does something or doesn't do something that didn't feel like it was natural. Sometimes in these kinds of books, like obviously you hear the poem about it being turned 3 times and you're thinking, okay, we're going to get there. And a lesser author might contrive a way to get to that point, but Bruce Coville gets you there so naturally, and it makes sense when it does happen. And you're thinking, okay, so this makes sense that Russell would do this. It makes sense what is happening here, and I'm believing what's going on. I'm not thrown out of the story because, oh, really? Like, you just did that so that way this would happen and you could have that as part of your story. No, this takes place. I will say, I think even here you have Eddie as the villain, and Russell is kind of a villain too in a way. But Eddie is kind of our main antagonist in the book, and he goes through a really great journey too, because you start to find out some things later on about him that make you think, oh, this is why he's acting the way that he does and treating Russell the way that he does. And I think that sheds such a good light on this whole story. This book is really well constructed. It is tight. It gets you in and out, as well as having some really good emotional moments. There's a really fascinating scene in the middle of the book where Russell starts fighting with his parents. And on one hand, he's struggling because he's fighting with his parents. He's an only child. He's fighting with them about different things, but the things he's saying are slightly truthful to the parents. And while the parents are dealing with the fact that Russell has burst out at them and is being pretty disrespectful toward them, they're also struggling with, wow, he's actually said something that's very true. The father in the story talks nonstop and never stops talking. And so Russell at one point goes to his dad and finally loses it after he's been using the ring a couple times. And he yells at his dad and says, "You never listen to me. You're always talking." And the dad is finally quiet for the first time. And what follows is this really well done scene that really has no right to be in a children's book. A lot of other children's authors would not even think to put this level of emotional punch into a book, but Bruce Coville does. And he takes this opportunity to have a conversation between the dad and the son where there's growth and maturity that happens on both of their ends. And I just thought, wow, this is something you very rarely see depicted in a lot of kids' books. This is really well done. So on the whole, I would say The Monster's Ring, definitely worth a read. I would give this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a lot of fun. There was a good mystery. You felt the panic later on as the ring is not coming off and Russell's wondering what will happen if he's a monster forever. As well as there's some good mystery behind what is this ring? What's going on? Where did it come from? How does it work? So this is a great book. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading it, obviously. I read straight through. I could not stop reading it. Have you ever read this book, The Monster's Ring by Bruce Coville? Let me know in the comments below if you've ever read this book or read any other Bruce Coville books, or especially if you've read Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher. That one is such a good book. I loved it so much. Have not read it in a long time, but I do remember reading it as an adult at one point. So let me know if you've read any of these books by Bruce Coville, the Magic Shop books. There's only one of these I haven't read, Jennifer Murdley's Toad. I have not read that one. I've heard that one is not as good as some of the others, but I'll check it out. So until next time, see you later, everybody. Keep reading. Bye.